Kate, you want to take it?
Yep, sure. Thank you everyone for coming to the awards part of the ceremony every year. This is just a wonderful time to recognize public law attorneys for special accomplishments in this past year and throughout an entire career of serving the people of Minnesota. And we'll start today with our 2 awards for public attorneys of excellence. And the first one is one that we give in the context of civil law. It's for Public Law Office Counsel. It's given to attorneys practicing civil law in the state of Minnesota in a public law office at the federal, state, and local level. This year's honoree is Catherine Kelly, an Assistant Attorney General. And introducing Ms. Kelly will be the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison.
Well, thank you. Thank you for awarding my friend and colleague, Catherine Kelly, the Public Attorney Award of Excellence. Just a few things about her, and I have to brag about her because she won't brag about herself. She's a humble person, but she really has been outstanding. I start with the idea that the Minnesota Attorney General's office is in the justice business, and what we are trying to do is help people afford their lives and live with dignity, safety, and respect. And the work that Catherine has been doing has been advancing those goals really like no other. And I'm so proud of her and the work that she's doing. I'll say the best, my opinion of the best for last, but I'll start out with just talking about how she has been a total team player with every other public lawyer at the Attorney General's office. She's not really in the charities division, but you wouldn't know it. She's thrown her shoulder to the wheel, helped out where it was needed. And I can tell you our manager in that division has the highest regard for Catherine and is extremely grateful to her for all the wonderful work Catherine has done in making sure that Minnesotans who donate to charities, the money goes where it's supposed to go and is dealt with in the proper way. She has been a total team player. Everybody in the office will thank Catherine. Second point I want to make is we just went through, well, we're not even out of it yet, but we went through quite a year when it comes to COVID-19. And the AG's workload did nothing but skyrocket. We had to stop scammers. We had to stop skimmers. We had to stop scum who were literally trying to lie to people and take their money away from them and misrepresenting cures and everything else. And during this period of time, our lawyers had to do more work than ever. And one of the things they needed to do is to protect people so that they could shelter in place. You can't shelter in place if you have no shelter to be in place. And the eviction moratorium is something that Catherine worked on quite a lot to help people stay safe and at home while they were looking for cures and so forth to get us through this very difficult period. Now that more and more people are being vaccinated, we are seeing what we hope is light at the end of the tunnel. But it was Catherine Kelly who really pulled the heavy oar to help keep people in their homes from the Attorney General's office. And then one of the last cases I want to talk about is the fact that I believe that housing is essential, and the AG's office is going to be an advocate for tenants and landlords. How landlords? By giving them information, telling them what's lawful, being a source of and a resource to them, as we recognize most landlords are great people and are just trying to provide housing for people, and that is a good thing. But there are some who don't see it that way, and they're just trying to squeeze every penny out of the most vulnerable people. And so I just want to recognize her for the wonderful work she's done on a particular housing case in North Minneapolis, where low-income women of color and their children were living in some really, really bad housing. Catherine wouldn't stand for it. I'll never forget one witness testifying that she couldn't even use the bathroom in her rented apartment because the squirrels had taken it over. And despite all of the calls, there was no response from this particular landlord who owned over 100 properties. Catherine was kind. She was a listener to these folks. She was a champion of them and was a fearsome trial lawyer in the courtroom. So with that, I'll just hand it over to my friend and the friend of all people who need a good lawyer, Catherine Kelly.
Thank you so much. Wow, I'm really honored. I'm just going to say a few brief words. I mean, I feel like the Attorney General said it all. I mean, as he does, he's so eloquent and so good, but I just have a few things to add to that. So thank you so much, Attorney General Ellison. I just wanted to say to the group and to everyone here today that As you know, being a civil public sector attorney means we serve the public above all else, right? And during a pandemic, that ethos was so important. While our fellow Minnesotans were suffering from illness, loss, fear, Minnesota's public sector attorneys were more critical than ever. I saw firsthand how government attorneys spent long, arduous hours grappling with new legal challenges and concepts that none of us ever thought when we were in law school that we'd be dealing with, and how our public sector attorneys rose to that challenge. They did it with compassion and skill. They often served at significant sacrifice to themselves and their families. I saw that firsthand and experienced it, but our state is better for them. Because 2020 was such a massive group effort to get through, I'd like to actually acknowledge all the civil public sector attorneys in the state who came through with flying colors last year to protect Minnesotans. Sometimes being a public attorney is a thankless job, so I deeply appreciate the Attorney General promoting me to this and the MSBA giving recognition to public sector attorneys like myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And now we'll move on to our second Public Law Attorney Award of Excellence. And this goes for in-house agency counsel. We give this award to public attorneys who practice in the state of Minnesota in a variety of public settings. And this year it goes to Carl Procaccini, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff and General Counsel for the Office of Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz. And introducing Mr. Procaccini today will be Craig Gustafson from MnDOT.
Thanks, Kate. I'm pleased to present the Public Attorney Award for Excellence for In-House Agency Counsel to Carl Procaccini, General Counsel and Deputy Chief of Staff in the Office of Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. A little bit about Carl before we turn it over to him. Carl's a native of Connecticut, a graduate of Harvard College, the American University in Cairo, and Harvard Law School. Not too bad, Carl. Post-law school, Carl clerked for Judge Diana Murphy of the U.S. Court of Appeals and Judge Michael Davis of the U.S. District Court. For 6 years, Carl was an attorney for the Greene Espel law firm in Minneapolis. I see we have Mr. Greene on today. Carl practiced in the areas of litigation, investigations, and compliance, where he worked on commercial, environmental, and intellectual property disputes.
Jump in. That was plenty of introduction.
Well, Craig, if you can hear us, sign out and then sign back in again. But otherwise, Carl, I'm sorry you don't get to hear the wonderful things about you, but perhaps you can tell us more about yourself.
That's just fine. And thanks so much to Craig and to the Public Law Section and Council. Really honored for this recognition and grateful for all the work that the council does on behalf of all of us members. Really appreciate that. I take this recognition as a recognition of all the work that our office has done over what has been a really challenging year. And Cliff Greene, who I see there, Cliff, great to see you. Cliff taught me pretty early on that lawyers working together collaboratively as a team are always better than lawyers working alone. Cliff built a whole firm around that concept, and it's a principle that I've tried to bring with me here to this office. And we've built a really extraordinary team here that had to respond to some really extraordinary things over the past year. So I'm super grateful to our team, our legal team here in the governor's office, who worked around the clock for most of 2020, responding to pandemic and other events that none of us could have foreseen when we started in this office. So I'm incredibly grateful for the team. Also incredibly grateful for our partners at the AG's office. I see John on and the Attorney General. And this past year has tested the state in a lot of ways, in very challenging ways, and having amazing partners in that office has made the work fun and successful. So a lot of gratitude. And to Craig and to all the other GCs and agencies around the state who have supported our efforts, just a heartfelt thank you from our whole team. It's been a heck of a year. On that point, I know we probably kept many of the folks on this call busy reading and interpreting executive orders late into the night. If anything was unclear, I take full responsibility for that. But I hope that you found our guidance sufficient. And as we look towards the end of the pandemic, the numbers seem to indicate that our efforts were successful and that Minnesota fared pretty well. And I was just super honored to get to play a role in the state's response in that way. So thank you again to the council, to the public law section, and to all of you for all the work that you do every day for Minnesotans. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Carl. This summer is looking a lot different than last summer, and a lot of that is thanks to your great work and to the great work of all the other public sector attorneys who have sacrificed so much over this past year. Our next award is the Public Lawyer Diversity Award, and this recognizes outstanding efforts and dedication by public lawyers or offices or an organization of public lawyers in Minnesota who have had a demonstrated impact on improving the employment opportunities for lawyers from groups that are historically underrepresented because of race, ethnicity, gender, disability, or sexual orientation, or eliminating bias based on those same categories. And so the award goes this year to the Minnesota Association of City Attorneys Executive Committee. And there are three individuals there, the immediate past president, Maria Cisneros, the president, Tom Jacobson, and the first vice president, Jared Shepard. And Patricia Beatty from the League of Minnesota Cities will be presenting that award to them.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you. On behalf of my partner in this nomination, Corrine Heine, as well as the entire Minnesota City Attorney community, I am very pleased to present this award to Maria, Tom, and Jared. Maria is the Golden Valley City Attorney. Tom is with the Swenson Lervick Law Firm up in Alexandria, where he is the City Attorney for Alexandria, as well as a number of other central Minnesota communities. And Jared is with the Campbell Knutson Law Firm, where he focuses his practice on representing cities and other government entities in litigation. He also has served as city attorney for several Minnesota communities. So these three outstanding lawyers served last year and continue to serve as officers of the Minnesota City Attorney Association. And their outstanding leadership in this past year included a number of things that they highly deserve this award. I'd like to mention a couple of them. First of all, the officers created a new and innovative series of virtual events for city attorneys in Minnesota. They developed for the first time specific programming that dove deep into the issues of systemic racism and its intersection with local government policies and decision-making and decision makers. These volunteer officers created a multi-part series of webinars that we titled Facing Forward. And these webinars educated city attorneys about the ways in which systemic racism affects local communities and their residents, but also about the role of city officials, including their legal counsel, and how city officials and legal counsel can play a role in addressing the problems that are created by racial inequities. The other thing I want to mention is that in addition to these very in-depth webinars on racism, the Facing Forward series, these three officers enabled the City Attorney Association to be a founding member of a broad coalition now, and it's a project called Just Deeds. Some of you may have heard of it. It's an ambitious, impactful project designed to educate the public about systemic racism in housing with a specific focus on discharging discriminatory restrictive covenants that appear on residential property titles. And Maria, I'm going to call you out a second here. You were truly the creator, the engine behind this work. After she and her husband found a racial covenant on the title of a home they purchased a few years back, Maria prompted her city to undertake a project a couple of years ago now that would assist Golden Valley residents to identify whether their properties were affected by discriminatory covenants. And then if so, the city provided tools, and still does, tools and a skilled assistance to help those residents discharge these covenants. But this work has evolved into this Just Deeds project that I think Maria might speak about. It's expanded to include a broad coalition of cities, real estate professionals, title companies, and law firms. These three officers have worked tirelessly to get this project off the ground, to promote it, to enlist title companies and volunteer attorneys to do pro bono work. And these incredible accomplishments were all done in a year when cities were stressed with significant impacts on resources and services due to a pandemic. So I congratulate Maria, Tom, Jared on receiving the Public Law Section Public Lawyer Diversity Award. It is well deserved.
All right. Abby, I don't know if we want to give each of them an opportunity to say something, or if we should move on to our next award.
I think we did talk about, I think they were gonna split up their remarks briefly. I think between all three of them, I'll toss it to Tom here to kick us off.
Take it away, Tom.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for this honor. Thank you, Pat and Corrine, for the nomination, to the section membership who selected us, and also to Ashley and everyone at the league who's helped with logistics, IT, overall support. And lastly, thanks to our families and coworkers for supporting this work. I'll turn the mic over to Maria and Jared in a moment, but I'm just going to start with a very quick overview of how this came to be. Really, it started with George Floyd's murder, and it became apparent after that that the association, the Minnesota Association of City Attorneys, is a perfect forum for responding to that horrific event and all that it revealed. Through our discussions, we realized the challenge of moving our membership to action, because our client cities are as diverse as the people who live in them. Each city and town have different issues and different perspectives on how to address them. So our goal became to develop programming that would be helpful to all Minnesota cities, whether big or small, metro or rural, diverse or homogeneous. And in a moment, Jared and Maria are going to update you on those outcomes, some of which Pat touched on. And they truly deserve a ton of credit for developing these programs. And I so appreciate their passion for these issues and for their open minds when considering and welcoming my perspectives. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jared, I think, and he's going to say a few things.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I'll try not to be duplicative of Tom too much here. And I'm just going to talk about the Facing Forward series. As Tom and Pat mentioned, we embarked on that last fall. And we started with several discussions about systemic racism in housing, kind of dovetailing with MACA's involvement in Just Deeds, which Maria is going to mention briefly. Moving on to discussions about diversity, equity, inclusion in city policies and processes. And then what we're really excited about is yet to come. This summer in July, we're doing a 3-part series on rethinking public safety and inviting city managers, administrators, police personnel, and city attorneys all to the table to have some serious conversations about the state of criminal justice, from policing to prosecution within our communities, and how we can move forward better together and collaboratively. So we're excited about that. The whole program wouldn't be as successful as we think it's been without the support of Pat Beatty and the League of Minnesota Cities. And as Tom mentioned, Ashley Nelson, who's the event coordinator over there, who has really helped us navigate COVID-19 and put these programs on. So I want to thank her and the marketing and tech support teams over at the League. I just want to say lastly that I appreciate my fellow executive committee members and that we've been able to come together and to launch these projects and recognize the importance of having these discussions among our municipal lawyer cohort. And hopefully this isn't the end of the discussions, but the beginning as we continue to move forward here as a legal community. So thank you to them, and thank you to MACA as a whole. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just speak super briefly about Just Deeds, and I encourage you all to go take a look at the Just Deeds website. It's justdeeds.org, because if we've learned anything over the last year, it's the importance of those of us who have power and influence engaging in these discussions. We all represent communities that are depending on us to have these difficult conversations and to tackle difficult problems so that our communities can work for everybody. So I encourage all of you as public lawyers to consider joining Just Deeds. We, as Pat said, we're a coalition of not just attorneys, but also real estate professionals and nonprofits and educational institutions. And in addition to helping people discharge racially restrictive covenants, we focus a lot on education and on honesty about the roles our industries have played in creating the systemic racism that exists in our society today. And government lawyers have a big part of that legacy, and we have a lot of power and ability to change that. So if you feel compelled to check out the website, we would love to have you join the coalition. I heard earlier that sometimes it's difficult to find pro bono opportunities that don't have conflicts for government attorneys. This is one such opportunity. And so consider joining on an individual or an organizational level. We would love to have you, and your work can really make a difference. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to the recipients of that award. Our next award is the Rosalie E. Wall Judicial Award of Excellence. And this award is named for the former Minnesota Supreme Court Justice, whose work as a justice encompassed the attributes of the award. She was highly regarded not only for her work as a judge, but also for her dedication and her tireless efforts on projects that improved the justice system. Our recipient this year is the Honorable Thomas Gilligan Jr. of the 2nd Judicial District. And nominating him today, or speaking, his nominator is John Keller of the Minnesota Attorney General's office. So John, take it away.
Thanks so much. It's an honor to have an opportunity to share. I want to first congratulate all of the award winners who've gone before me. It's so nice to see Catherine, of course, my colleague, who is amazing, and Carl. It's been a real honor to work with you over the last 2+ years, and this last year will be an amazing memory that we're privileged to have been in these positions and privileged to work with you. I had the honor to pull together all of the sentiments around Judge Gilligan and Judge Gilligan's merit for being nominated and receiving this award from a wide variety of sources in the office. None more important to putting this together and really see full depth of Judge Gilligan's work over this last year than his law clerk, Thomas Johnson, who's been his clerk for the last 15 years. So I know Thomas couldn't join us. We had hoped he'd be able to offer some remarks as well, but thank you so much for your help in pulling this together. The AG's office believes that this last year, given all of the suits against constitutional officers that have been brought in Ramsey County in 2020, that the civil presiding judge had one of the most momentous impacts in the law of this last year. And we're thrilled that Judge Gilligan's work and leadership is being honored today. Momentous cases relating to the logistics and validity of the 2020 election, as well as the governor's use of executive powers, were heard in Ramsey County. And they had to be heard during a historic pandemic. As the head of the civil division, Judge Thomas Gilligan rose to the occasion of this once in a generation, hopefully multiple generations, confluence of events, and showed incredible leadership as he did so. On the administrative side, Judge Gilligan ensured the 80+ employees in the division that they could continue to work from home while ensuring that the parties in civil cases were able to reach resolution of their disputes. Although most hearings were able to take place virtually, there was an issue of what to do with civil cases that were set for jury trials. At the start of the pandemic, the backlog of those trials began to accumulate. However, Judge Gilligan worked to offer litigants creative ADR alternatives. He didn't confine his efforts in this last year to the civil division. When he realized that colleagues over 65 were at more risk of serious impacts of COVID-19 than he was, He also volunteered to take their in-person shifts at the law enforcement center. His law clerk, Tom, described doing criminal work with Judge Gilligan from 9 to 5 and civil work all evening during key months of the summer of 2020. And finally, the civil cases that Judge Gilligan addressed during this pandemic, as I mentioned, were some of the most complex, high-stakes matters in this state. He addressed multiple cases about the 2020 election regarding the types of adjustments needed to be able to accommodate COVID-19, as well as compliance with federal law. He presided over the biggest case on abortion rights in 40 years. He's the first judge in the state to hear a challenge the constitutionality of the governor's authority to issue executive orders during the public health emergency, and had to interpret multiple aspects of the Minnesota Emergency Management Act for the first time in our state history. He also presided over a week-long virtual bench trial over whether big tobacco was appropriately abiding by its obligations to the state, stemming from the litigation our office brought in the 90s. Through it all, Judge Gilligan never strayed from his hallmarks, showing respect for all parties that came before him virtually, being prepared for every hearing, issuing thoughtful and well-reasoned opinions, and remaining good-natured and caring in his treatment of everyone around him. Plus, as has been noted earlier, he did this from an unlikely office, the unfinished room above his garage. Judge Thomas A. Gilligan Jr. is well deserving of this year's Rosalie Wall Award for Judicial Excellence, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to recognize him. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Judge Gilligan is not able to attend today, but Abby's going to share his pre-recorded remarks for us all.
Morning, everyone. I'm sorry I can't be with you this morning to receive this award. About this time, I'm going to be up in the Boundary Waters, either paddling, catching shore lunch, or being chased by an angry bear. I'm honored and humbled to receive the Rosalie E. Wall Judicial Award. Thank you, John Keller, for nominating me. I'm particularly honored since my former boss and mentor, Ann Montgomery, was a past honoree. This has been a very difficult year for so many reasons. We've had to radically change the way we ensure fairness and justice during the pandemic. We're also doing so in an environment where the integrity and independence of the judiciary is under attack. And for me personally, I've been faced with the most challenging decisions I've had to make since I was appointed 7 years ago. I'm very grateful for my staff and administration, the MSBA, of which I've been a proud member for over 30 years, and for the public law section, who do the people's work every single day. Thank you again for this award.
Okay, and thank you very much to all of those previous nominators and nominees. I'm going to take it from here and announce the awardees for the Douglas K. Amdahl Public Attorney Career Achievement Award. This award is intended to recognize retired or retiring public attorneys who have had distinguished careers as public attorneys, have made significant contributions to the public service, and are recognized as models of the dedication and commitment of public attorneys. This award can be given to more than one recipient in the year, and this year we have 5 distinguished individuals to recognize. Before I hand it over to Ann Bloodheart, I just wanted to remind everyone, all the nominators and awardees, to remain on the call till the end so that we can get a quick group screenshot to recognize everybody. It's a very 2021 phrase, but so it goes. So with that, I will turn over the screen to Ann Bloodheart.
Thank you, and hopefully I successfully unmuted myself. I am very happy to announce this award for Donald Meeting on behalf of not just myself, the General Counsel at the Metropolitan Council, but the entire Office of General Counsel. Don is a quintessential public attorney, and he has worked his entire career in the public sector. And Don, I'm not going to do you justice in this introduction, so I just apologize in advance. He graduated from the University of Nebraska College of Law in 1972 and immediately joined the Minnesota Attorney General's office, where he started in the education division and had a case that went to the Minnesota Supreme Court, challenging the Education Commissioner's authority to order the Minnetonka School District to pay for private school tuition for a student with special needs. The court ultimately upheld the commissioner's authority, and Don was a big part of that case. In 1984, he also had the opportunity to be on a team that went to the United States Supreme Court in a PELRA matter. But perhaps what you all most know him for is for representing the Minnesota Department of Transportation. And he became the manager of the Transportation Division in 1980. And I really think that that framed a lot of the projects and the progress that MnDOT made for the next 30 years. To this day, if you want to get something done at MnDOT, you just tell them that Don Meeting says that we can do this, and your voice will go a long way to getting it done. He worked on a lot of complicated projects, handled a lot of condemnation matters, and probably every one of you drive every day on a highway project that MnDOT acquired during his tenure as the manager. He also worked a lot on the development and the construction of the new bridge between Minnesota and Wisconsin, handling a significant amount of litigation, utility work, just a ton of work. The most fun work that Don ever had is the work that I first met him on, and that was in 2001, when I joined the Minnesota Attorney General's office as well to battle Xcel Energy regarding the relocation of its facilities in 5th Street for the construction of our first light rail system, the Hiawatha Light Rail Line. That was a really big piece of litigation. Don was a critical part of that and of getting Xcel Energy to move those facilities at its own expense in a case that went to the 8th Circuit and was up and down a few times. Coming from the private sector, I think what struck me the most was we were talking one day about whether MnDOT could do something. And I said, well, there's nothing to prohibit it. And Don said, well, what authority do they have? And that was one of the best things about Don Meeting is he always looked at what authority the government has to act and focused us on that issue. I mean, he also held us to a higher standard. Don has a very high belief that public sector attorneys should be held to a higher standard, are held to a higher standard, and every person that he has taught, mentored, and managed over the years was taught that same thing, and we all really appreciate it. When he retired from the AGO, his public sector career was far from over, and in fact, in 2009, Don became the general counsel at the Metropolitan Council. He was a natural choice for that position. He's worked on big projects throughout Minnesota for his entire career, and many of those projects that are the biggest construction project ever in the state of Minnesota, Don has worked on them. He was the general counsel at the Met Council for almost 8 years, and through that, we constructed the Central Corridor Light Rail Transit Project, made significant project in Southwest, and when he decided to retire from the Metropolitan Council, he wasn't quite ready to be done yet, so I kept him on for 3 years on a pro plan. And a lot of people would say, why would a general counsel keep on the former general counsel? But I can speak for my whole office. We loved having Don around. We loved his wit, his humor, the spirited arguments that we would get into, and all of that history. So Don, it's been my pleasure to work with you for the last 20 years, and I'm honored to announce you for this award. Thank you.
Am I on? I think not.
We can hear you.
Okay, very good. Do you see me?
We can see and
All
hear
right,
you. Yep.
very good. Thank you. Well, Anne, thank you very much. I'm blushing. I forgot most of the things that you told me about my career, so that was a good primer for me. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to the members of the public law section of the Minnesota State Bar Association. I'm very proud to accept this Career Service Award. Though individuals rarely receive an award for career service based only on their own merits. That's particularly true in my case. I have had the benefit over the years with several mentors and supporters on my journey. First, I've had a patient and supportive wife who has been there for me during all of the events that have caused stress and or joy in my career. Also, I've been gifted with wise managers, experienced administrative assistants, very, very responsible and responsive public clients, talented colleagues who have picked me up and dusted me off and set me back on track when I've needed them. There's too many to have to list each one of them, but I would like to go through some critical names that have created the opportunity for me during my career to have enjoyed the benefits of representing the government for the past 48 years. First, I'd like to mention the 4 attorneys general that I operated under. Warren Spanis hired me in 1972, fresh out of Nebraska, University of Nebraska Law School. And after that, Skip Humphrey appointed me to be his manager of the transportation division. Following that, Mike Hatch and Lori Swanson both gave me their trust and support and maintained me in the positions that I've had. And I don't think I can say enough good things about those people and the service that they've provided and allowed me to provide the citizens of the state of Minnesota. Then, as Ann said, in 2009, I took a position with the Metropolitan Council, but I want to thank Peter Bell, who was the chair of the council at that time, and Tom Weaver, the regional administrator, who were very supportive of me taking the position of general counsel and making some significant changes in that office, which I think over the years has proven to be beneficial to the people, the citizens of this of the region governed by the Metropolitan Council. These were wonderful years, and I am very grateful for everything that I have had an opportunity to do. And finally, I'd like to especially name Ann Bloodheart, who I've worked with at the Attorney General's office and at the council, who's my successor. I didn't appoint her, but there are people at the council who saw the talent that was there and the need for continuity, and she's been doing a marvelous job. So to each of you, let me just say, I am very grateful. I am wonderfully served by the benefits that have been given to me by others who have surrounded me. This is not necessarily an award for me. This is an award for the entire support system that has allowed me to practice all these years in the public service. And with that said, I'd like to say that for those of you who are continuing in the practice of public law, based on my experience, don't give it up. It is a wonderful way to serve the people of this state, of this region, of each of your counties, each of your cities. It is critical work, even more now than ever before, to be consistent with the laws, the rules, and the state, local governments, and also to serve the needs of our democracy, that we are there consistently providing the kind of legal support, legal analysis, and representation that government needs now and will continue in the future. So again, I say thank you for this award. I am very, very honored, and I appreciate it. Amen.
Hear, hear. Congratulations, Thank you very much, Don, and to Anne for the nomination. Okay, we'll turn it over now to Wendy Legg, who nominated Kate Berger. Wendy, take it away.
Actually, I think you need to turn it over to Commissioner Rosalind Robertson right now. Because I'd be happy to talk about numerous of these wonderful recipients, but I believe that Commissioner Robertson and former Commissioner Nancy Lempick are going to nominate Kate Berger.
Okay, then.
Good morning. On behalf of all of the staff at the Department of Labor and Industry, I am absolutely delighted to participate in this award ceremony recognizing Kate Berger. For almost 36 years, Kate Berger has been the go-to person for all things work comp. Actually, Kate and I started our careers at the Department of Labor and Industry at about the same time. And over these last 36 years or so, Kate has just been the go-to person. She has faithfully served and advised all of the commissioners that have come through the department and reporting to the Chief General Counsel. As a matter of fact, over those years, Kate participated in the management and was recognized as the lead general counsel on 5 different occasions. We could never convince her to take the job, but being a good and faithful public servant, she was always willing to step up to the plate when the need arose. Kate was instrumental and was the primary drafter of all work comp legislation really as far back as I can remember. I know specifically she was the primary drafter of the work comp reform language that went into place in 1992 and then 1995. And following that legislation, she pivoted real quick and moved from drafting legislation to being the primary drafter for the mega rules that followed that. Those rules in that legislative language really set the tone for the workers' compensation system since that time. And not only was she the early drafter, her work continued right up until her time of retirement. More recently, Kate drafted the legislative language that established presumptive coverage for our first responders during COVID. So her contributions have really spanned the entire time that she worked at Labor and Industry. Not only was Kate the chief drafter for most of the workers' compensation legislation, but she was also a very necessary and valuable contributor to all areas where labor and industry have regulatory authority, including labor standards, OSHA, and the Construction Code and Licensing Division. During this time, Kate's contributions are really just far too many to reduce to this 5-minute introductory, but I just want to say Kate has been a tremendous asset to the agency. She will be sorely missed. She is the epitome of the Douglas K. Amdahl Public Attorney Career Achievement Award, because she's that quiet soul, that public attorney who shy away from any public attention. However, she is most deserving for the recognition and should be lauded for her many achievements. Additionally, of being a great public servant. Kate has been a wonderful friend. She's been a good friend to me and good friends to many of the staff at Labor and Industry. She has mentored the less experienced attorneys that have come behind her, and she has been a confidant and a strong supporter of the more or equally experienced attorneys. We're going to miss her terribly, but we will be forever grateful for her many contributions. Thank you, Kate, for all that you have done. You will be missed. And now I'll turn it to Nancy Lapine for a few words.
You're muted.
So I knew I would do that. Anyway, I'm pleased to join in the nomination of Kate Berger with Commissioner Robertson. Kate has been my colleague and friend for over 30 years. Kate Berger, as an attorney with the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry, has served, if I counted them correctly, 6 administrations and 9 commissioners, with one of them at least twice. And for each one, she's become a trusted legal advisor, turned to again and again for advice on one of the most complex laws and systems in state government, Minnesota's workers' compensation program. But even more importantly, she was trusted and respected for her unparalleled expertise and experience by her co-workers, one of whom, Sarah Stoltman, is also being honored here today, and by the agency's line staff, supervisors, managers, and division directors. Time and time again, she was turned to find solutions, sorry about that, to impossible challenges. Her fingerprints are on, as Commissioner Robertson has stated, are on almost every section of the state's workers' compensation statutes and regulations, and almost every word of the policies that implement those laws. She has played a crucial role in crafting and evolving one of the most important worker protection laws in the state, the law that protects workers and their families when they are injured at work. Kate is a true public servant. I was privileged to have learned from her, to have worked shoulder to shoulder with her many long days and nights, and I have been blessed to be her friend as we work to navigate our commitments of work and family. I am hopeful her partner in life, Anne, her 2 daughters, Emma and Anna, and her extended family, in particular, her recently deceased mother, knew and know the important role she played in her incredible achievements during her time in public service. I thank them for sharing her with all of us all these years. I thank her for her service, for working tirelessly to make government work for the people, for keeping the promises of this democracy during times when we needed them most. So thank you, Kate, and it's my pleasure to nominate you for this award.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. My other nominators, and of course, the public law section of the Bar Association. I don't know what I can say to respond to that. I can't be nearly as eloquent and kind, but I do believe much of what Rosalind and Nancy just said. Am I supposed to like click on something to make no, I'm okay. I believe much of what Nancy and Rosalind just said applies to all of you as well. Any achievements attributed to me have been the result of collaboration with a dedicated team of DLI employees. As Nancy and Rosalind said, I have worked with them for years and years, and I probably would have retired sooner if it hadn't been for the opportunity to work under their leadership again at the department. I miss all of you. I'm so grateful for the contributions everyone has made to our work at Labor and Industry. I'd also like to acknowledge Pat Winget and Sarah Stoltman as recipients of this award. I have consulted with them on rulemaking, health, and work comp issues over the years and greatly admire their expertise. I do feel somewhat guilty for leaving DLI because there's always so much to do, particularly in the middle of a pandemic. But I think back about who is still there, and the very capable and dedicated people. Jessica, Rosalie, and Ethan, who of course now has a leadership role with the public law section and is an amazing attorney. And I know that labor and industry is in good hands. I read the other day that Wallet Hub, whatever they are, ranked Minnesota in first place for the quality of government services. And if you're thinking Wallet Hub, you know, the same as I did, who are they? The US News and World Report also ranked Minnesota as the second best state after Washington. And I think that Minnesota's high rankings are spot on. I'm proud to have served Minnesota as a public lawyer for more than 30 years. I've worked with city, county, and state employees in Minnesota and have consistently found them all to be dedicated to public service and to the work that we all do. I started out as an RN, but then transitioned to public law. And my heart goes out to the healthcare providers in the pandemic because I know how challenging life has been for them. But I am glad I've been able to use my nursing background on a variety of health, work comp, and most recently, pandemic legal issues. It's been a privilege to contribute to quality government services to protect the people of Minnesota. And thank you so much for this award. And thank you, Nancy, for acknowledging my family, all of whom have been, and my mother particularly, all of whom have been extremely understanding and patient while we work long hours to address the issues of our state and particularly during the pandemic. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, so I'm going to let Abby work with Patricia behind the scenes to see if we can iron those out, and we'll move on to Sarah Stoltman and her nominator, Wendy Legg, and hopefully then we'll be able to welcome Patricia back. So Wendy, sorry for getting you confused a little earlier.
No problem. Thanks very much, Justin. Before I start, I need to tell you that I'm not a victim of domestic abuse. My eyes look this way because I had surgery on Wednesday. But even looking like this is not going to stop me from honoring Sarah Stoltman as well as Kate Berger and Patricia Wingent, who are fabulous, some of our fabulous award recipients today. I'm honored to present the Douglas K. Amdahl Public Attorney Career Achievement Award to Sarah Stoltman. I was one of many nominators, so many I'm not going to even list them. I think just about every former and current member of the Department of Labor and Industries Office of General Counsel nominated her. I had the privilege of being Sarah's supervisor in the Department of Labor and Industries Office of General Counsel from 2009 to 2018. But Sarah had been at Dolly long before I arrived there. Sarah worked at Dolly for 35 years. All of her work is focused on the Special Compensation Fund, or SCF. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the SCF, it's a big pot of money that is funded by assessments on workers' compensation insurers and is administered by Dolly. This pot of money is used to pay workers' compensation benefits to workers whose employers should have had work comp insurance, but failed to get it. Sarah started working at Dolly in 1986 as a claims administrator for the SCF. At that time, the Attorney General's office did the litigation for the SCF. Then in the early 1990s, that litigation function was transferred to Dolly. Sarah was instrumental in making that transition go smoothly. The entire time I've known Sarah, she's been an outstanding litigator for the SCF, appearing before the Office of Administrative Hearings and the Workers' Compensation Court of Appeals in literally thousands of cases. Sarah has played a very important role in Dolly's service to the public. Before I talk about Sarah's legal accomplishments, I want to tell you a little bit about her swimming. Sarah has participated in swimming events all over the world. Many of her travels have been planned around swimming events, I'll give you just one example of Sarah's commitment to swimming. In 2017, Sarah was planning to swim a race in the Florida Keys, but Hurricane Irma got in the way of that. So what did Sarah do? She went to the Monterey Beach Sports Fest in Monterey, California instead, and she won 4 medals there. I'm sure that Sarah's retirement will include lots of swimming. There's not time for me to tell you about all of Sarah's legal accomplishments, but I do want to tell you what a fantastic teacher and colleague she has been. When I became Dolly's Chief General Counsel, I knew almost nothing about workers' compensation. I knew just enough to be dangerous. But Sarah was one of a core group of litigators who helped me learn and even helped me to do some SCF litigation myself. Sarah was also one of the attorneys who trained new attorneys who were hired for SCF litigation. Lord knows I wasn't qualified to train them on SCF work. Sarah is a fabulous writer. Whenever any attorney was struggling with what to say in an SCF motion or brief, the go-to person at Dolly was Sarah. She was always very generous with her time and never judgmental. She was a wonderful colleague. Sarah's teaching accomplishments go far beyond Dolly. For many years, she has been a co-author of the chapter on the SCF in the Workers' Compensation Desk Book, and that's the Bible for Minnesota work comp attorneys. She also was a frequent guest speaker at the Carlson School. There are many classes of MBA graduates who can thank Sarah for their knowledge of work comp law. Sarah took a sabbatical in 2014 to 15 to work for AmeriCorps, tutoring young children at a public elementary school. She also does pro bono work, including asylum cases through the Minnesota Advocates for Human Rights. In summary, Sarah Stoltman represents everything that anyone could ask for in a public attorney in Minnesota. Congratulations, Sarah, on this well-deserved award.
Thank you, Wendy. Can I be heard? Okay. Yes, I do enjoy swimming. I did 2 miles in the pool and 2 miles at the lake this morning. But I very much appreciate this award. I appreciate your kind words, Wendy. I enjoyed working for you. I also very much appreciate my coworkers who nominated me for this award and have recognized my efforts over the years. But no career is successful without a lot of support from other people. And I want to note some of the people who've supported me in my career throughout the years. The first group is my coworkers, the other attorneys, the paralegals, the claims managers, my assistants. Whenever I had a problem that was novel and I didn't know what to do with, I could always rely on them to use the expertise they got from their minefields of experiences to try to solve these problems. Throughout the years, I had excellent support staff that kept me looking good to the outside world. Occasionally, one of my support staff would bring back a draft brief and there would be a comment on there, this paragraph doesn't make sense, or did you really mean to date your signature last year? So they always dusted those things off to make me look good, and I appreciate that. I'm grateful for the leadership. You, Wendy, and also Roz and Nancy and other commissioners who have given us directions and given us goals and actually had a passion for our mission. I'm grateful to my family and friends who have supported me out throughout the years, and also very grateful to the state of Minnesota for giving me the opportunity to have this career. Leo Ide hired me in 1986 in a very bad job market, but he took a chance. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but I'm grateful for him for giving me the chance. And lastly, it's been my privilege to work with all of you to help make Minnesota a fair and safe place for workers in Minnesota. So thank you very much. I'm very honored for this award. Thank you.
Wait. Congratulations. Okay, our next nominee, the former colleague of mine, and I'm very excited to welcome Susan Toddenham and Jackie Kavanaugh to recognize Pat Winget for the Amdahl Award. So, Susan or Jackie, you want to take it from here?
Sure. This is Suzanne. I'll go first. Good morning, everyone. I'm so thrilled and honored to be a part of this. Patricia, your impact on the rulemaking community in Minnesota is literally immeasurable. In fact, we are still trying to figure out how to fill your shoes even a year after your retirement. That said, you made it a priority to teach and mentor so many of us that we have been able to continue your legacy, but miss your knowledge, professionalism, kindness, and mentorship. On behalf of the rulemaking community, thank you so much for building a strong and deep community of public servants. In addition to your leadership roles, including editing the rulemaking manual, you were always so generous of your time and expertise and cheerfully fielded phone queries, even after retirement. Your commitment to public service continues. The rulemaking community is a group of professionals that reflect the lessons you have shared over your years of public service, and we in Minnesota are all the better for it. Jackie?
Good morning. My name is Jackie Kavanaugh, and I'm honored to say a few words about my former colleague, Patricia Wingett. As our nomination letter explains, there are so many reasons she is deserving of the Douglas K. Amdahl Public Attorney Career Achievement Award. The reasons range from her impeccable work ethic over the years, her long-standing leadership role in the rulemaking community, and her commitment to mentoring. What I want to focus on for a minute is Patricia's willingness to mentor and generously share her expertise, not only with me, but with so many others across state government. I met Patricia in 2010 after I started a new position as a rule writer with another agency. The rulemaking manual made it easy to navigate the many steps of the APA, but there are always nuanced questions along the way. As a non-lawyer, it sometimes felt daunting, but Patricia assured me that I could reach out anytime with my questions and she'd be happy to help. And she was, countless times. Thanks to Patricia's mentoring, it wasn't long before I became more confident in my own skills and eventually moved on to work at the Department of Health. I consider myself extremely fortunate to have spent 5 years under her tutelage. So many others have similar stories to my own. I want to read the second to last paragraph in our nomination letter. For all the reasons that Patricia is deserving of this award, I think this says it best. Patricia's demonstrated dedication to public service extended beyond the exceptional work for MDH. It shows in the long line of mentees who have learned from Patricia. Some of her legacy can be measured in the number of rules she brought to adoption, decisions written, edits to the manual, advice given. But so much of her legacy is immeasurable in the skilled rulemakers she has molded. I, along with all who nominated you, are thrilled and extremely proud of this latest recognition for you, Patricia.
I saw Patricia on screen a moment ago, but then she disappeared. So I'm not sure if she's still around. Patricia?
Yes, I'm here.
There you are.
A little bit of technical difficulty on this end. I had to switch from the PC world of state employees to an Apple. And anyway, so it also gave me a chance to collect myself because the comments of Suzanne and Jackie got me all choked up. So I'm overwhelmed by this. I'm going to move on to just a moment. I'll pull up my comments here. Maybe. Yeah. Yes. I'm so honored and to be following along with Kate Berger, whom I have a very high regard for and have worked with for so well, and was also one of my people to go to. This is truly an honor to receive this award. So I thank the Minnesota Bar Association Public Law Section for recognizing my body of work with this Career Achievement Award, named for one of Minnesota's giants of public law, Justice Ondell, Working for the greater good was my guiding light and ambition. I'm so grateful to have had this long career in public service and thrilled to have participated in Minnesota's good government tradition. And actually, that tradition was one of the reasons I moved to Minnesota in the first place after graduating from law school in Kansas City, Missouri. Receiving this award validates that decision and validates it far beyond anything I could have imagined. So once again, thank you. I got to work with some of the best individuals and best institutions, not just in Minnesota, anywhere. So, and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude that the nomination, Jackie and Suzanne worked on it, probably put the most work into it, but there were 10 professionals from 8 agencies who generated the nomination while disrupted by the pandemic. So that they would collaborate during that time on such a glowing nomination is just overwhelming. This story is mostly about them, but I do want to step back and talk a bit about my long and varied career. I had a great deal of gratitude to the MSBA for the myriad opportunities to serve in both the health law and administrative law sections. And I'm especially grateful to the Minnesota Department of Health for allowing me to pursue this excellence in administrative law, which turned out to be my forte. I worked under, I think it's 5 commissioners, but that might be counting Jan Malcolm twice. So I came in under Jan Malcolm and left under both under Jan Malcolm, and I served in both quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative capacities. And such opportunities I had. I decided administrative appeals for the Commissioner of Health, and that allowed me to ensure that the mighty power of the state was tempered when dealing with powerless individuals, while the public was protected from the dangerous ones. And I firmly believe that no measure of justice is too small to be worth pursuing. But the story is really about rulemaking. Assisting the Department of Health in adopting its regulations into law meant that I was working with top-notch professionals of national reputation under the Minnesota Administrative Procedure Act. And I worked on cutting-edge science and where it intersected with public policy, which I found endlessly fascinating. And this was crucial because I had a definite need that work had to be interesting, which is why I was much happier working in public service than in private practice. So let's go back to that community that Suzanne and Jackie were talking about. The Interagency Rules Committee provided me with endless interesting opportunities in spades. And as Suzanne mentioned, I was the MDA's rules coordinator, and I succeeded Dave Oren as the editor of the Minnesota Rulemaking Manual, which all of state government uses for adopting its rules. And it was intellectually challenging and an opportunity for me to do the editing that I love so much, and also to connect with everywhere across state government. And also I chaired the annual training for rule writers, which is a statutory requirement that the training be given. So this community of dedicated civil servants who are usually unsung, but nevertheless committed to serving the public's best interests, came from all across state government, and they're the ones who brought me this honor today. For 14 years, I led the seminars that trained these rule writers, in addition to my MDA duties. And with the help of many, so many, we quickly established a planning committee structure and recruited the professionals who were willing to take part. And there were so many who were eager and willing to volunteer for the planning, the presenting, and helping with operations. And I was very, very delighted to work with them. They were so creative, reliable, capable, talented, and our seminars unfailingly filled the capacity and received rave reviews. So, and I also built relationships throughout this that provided me with a constant source of material for improving the manual. And because of this, I always knew what was going on, or I knew how to find out what was going on. I had the opportunities to advise the governor's office, the revisor's office, the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I advised rule writers from all over, and sometimes even outside of Minnesota. So the opportunities to meet with agency representatives, take their phone calls to untangle the problems, all of these things contribute to my expertise while sharing the goal of giving the state of Minnesota the best rules possible. Working with this community was such a joy. And now this community has rewarded me with this recognition. And I am so grateful to have had that, and so confident in their abilities to continue with their great contributions to Minnesota's regulatory needs. Minnesotans are fortunate to have them. I've always said that for me, rulemaking is a guilty pleasure, and now it's a public one for me too. Thank you for listening, and thank you for this award.
Thank you, Patricia. It was a pleasure working with you. I'm going to miss you quite a bit. All right, and our last awardee today to recognize is Clifford Greene, who will be introduced by my colleague, Kate Swenson.
Hello again. I have the privilege to introduce my friend and former colleague, Cliff. Nearly 30 years ago, Cliff Greene co-founded the Greene Law Firm, and public sector law was one of the bedrocks of our firm. And last fall, Cliff retired from practicing law after decades of serving governmental clients of all types and sizes, including public officials and a variety of public entities like the University of Minnesota, Hennepin County, Ramsey County, the Minneapolis and the Anoka-Hennepin school districts, and many, many Minnesota cities. Cliff was regularly retained to defend government entities or officials in high-profile disputes, in constitutional cases, or litigation where there was significant precedent at stake or public policy questions that needed to be solved. For an example of his high-profile situations that he worked on, Cliff served as the lead negotiator in helping the North Star commuter rail become a reality. In addition to his public sector litigation experience, Cliff has also demonstrated significant public service in the area of public law. He served on many committees or commissions that were devoted to the improvement of public law, including chairing the Committee of the Police Community Relations of the Minnesota Supreme Court Task Force on Racial Bias in the Judicial System. He co-chaired the MSBA's Committee on Pro Bono in the Public Sector, and he served on the Minneapolis Commission on Civil Rights. Cliff is a natural teacher, and he has shared his wealth of knowledge and experience with both current and future legal professionals. For example, he recently taught civil rights liability at the Mitchell Hamlin School of Law, and he's given numerous CLE presentations on a variety of public law topics, including whistleblower and retaliation claims in the public sector, and making tough decisions in high-profile public sector cases. Whenever I write a brief, I hear Cliff's voice asking me, "Does the brief sting?" He especially understands the power of stories when it comes to advocacy and persuasion, and he is a gifted storyteller, and that's something I hope he will demonstrate today, so no pressure, Cliff. In conclusion, Cliff is the model of a dedicated and committed public attorney, and as a former claims manager at the League of Minnesota Cities said when Cliff retired, Cliff has been a remarkable friend and a remarkable asset for us. When we had trouble, he was the person I always thought about to help the League and our member cities find a solution. Cliff, we are thrilled to present you with the Justice Amdahl Public Attorney Career Achievement Award in recognition of your career as a public attorney.
Thank you very, very much. Am I on? Okay, good. Thank you very, very much, Kate. I am very humbled by this award and to receive it with co-recipients, some of whom I know and hold in the highest regard, some at the early stages of their career, like Carl Procaccini. Every time the governor issues an executive order, I think about a sleepless night, sleepless week you probably had, to Don Meeting, who, as far as I am concerned, is the quintessential public lawyer modeling intellect and integrity in whatever he does. So to include me in this group is truly an honor. I would like to do something that maybe hasn't been done yet, and that is that this is the Douglas Amdahl Award. And it turns out that it's very important, significant to me because I knew Doug Amdahl, and he was very significant in my career. He had a great impact on it early on. Doug Amdahl handled one of the first cases that I brought as a defense lawyer. He was the district court judge. The case was very interesting. It concerned a lawsuit against a marriage counselor who was sued by the father husband when the marriage went bad, and there was a custody dispute. There was a decision about whether or not the marriage counselor had made a mistake by offering an opinion about custody. And there was some plausibility to that argument. But Judge Amdahl took a look at our motion to dismiss and said, in the courts, the welfare of the children must always be paramount, and he dismissed the case. After waiting a suitable length of time following that decision, he sent me a note, and the note said, "You are the kind of lawyer who opens windows and lets in light. Keep it up." I'd never expected that kind of feedback from a judge, and I was in my 20s at that time, and I was so taken and encouraged by that Judge Amdahl was always one of my favorites. I have my favorite story about Judge Amdahl is that in 1982, I was teaching legal writing at William Mitchell, and I brought my students over to the courtroom at the state capitol, the Supreme Court courtroom in all of its majesty. And this was a Saturday morning, so no one was around, and the students were very, shall we say, casual in that setting. They were leaning against tables and lecterns, and they didn't notice that a relatively short man in jeans and a lumberjack shirt had walked in. He had a flat top, a crew cut kind of haircut, and he was kibitzing with the students. Where are you from? What are you interested in? And he started walking off stage left. And I went over to my students and I said, "Do you know who that was?" And I knew what they thought. They thought he was the Saturday custodian for the court. And I said, "Well, you were just talking to the Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court." And they suddenly sprang to attention, and there wasn't going to be anything any more slouching, but they'd learned a lesson. And what they learned is that Judge Amdahl did not hold his authority as a bright, shiny object. He was a man of humility, a man of modesty, and a man who really cared about talking to students about where they were from and what they would do. So to be able to receive this award that perpetuates his memory is very special for me. So I thank you for it. I always wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't back into the profession. While in college, I took some courses in urban planning, and I found that whenever there was a conflict or a tough issue or whatever, they had to call in lawyers to solve it. And I liked urban planning, but I wanted to be the one who was the go-to person to solve these problems. So I went to law school. And when I was in law school, while people were telling me they wanted to do mergers and acquisitions, or they wanted to do bankruptcy or whatever, they said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Constitutional law." And they sort of laughed and they said, "You can't hang out a shingle that says Cliff Greene, constitutional lawyer. It's just not the way it is." But I had dreams of doing that. And I went to a law firm that did public sector work, Popham Hague. And I was blessed by the opportunity to have wonderful mentors there, including Wayne Popham, who had served on the legislature and who also represented a number of public sector entities, and David Doty, who was very involved in civic matters, and as we all know, has been a longtime federal district court judge. There were many other people who combined their lawyering with civic commitment at Popham Hague, and I always feel grateful to the colleagues that I had there, who both were excellent lawyers and modeled public service. In 1993, I had this dream for a law firm that would make public law a cornerstone of the firm. And with a few other people, we started Greene Espel. And during the course of time that I was there, I had the opportunity to work with some of the best public servants, some of the best lawyers that one could hope for. I worked on University of Minnesota matters. I worked on the League of Cities. Pat Beatty, it's so nice to see you on Zoom here. Worked with so many different agencies, the Met Council, seeing my friends from there. And I really liked doing it, not just because this was intellectually challenging work, but because the work mattered. The work, the outcome of these disputes, does the government have the authority to regulate? What about personal freedoms that are being regulated? Those made a difference to the community as a whole, whereas commercial litigation made a difference to the parties to the litigation. Who gets the tax write-off in a business deal is not generally something that makes a huge difference across the boards, but doing public sector litigation really did. And I am so grateful also for my colleagues at Greene Espel, many of whom, like Kate, like Carl, have created new standards of excellence for representing public sector folks, and to make the public sector law a centerpiece of the law firm. So I'm grateful to everybody at Greene Espel for that. Just a couple of additional thank yous. I need to thank my wife, Kim. Many of you may not know that Kim had a 20-year career at the Attorney General's office, keeping Minnesota safe from unscrupulous charities. And that makes us a public law marriage. We're a public law couple. And I thank Kim for supporting me and my dream to start a new law firm, and supporting me during times when there were very demanding cases that required weekend work and the like. I can never say a sincere and loud enough thank you. So I think that I am done. I'm sure I forgot something, but thank you very much to the public sector section for including me with these extraordinary co-recipients and public servants. I'm forever grateful.
Thank you, Cliff. And to all of our nominees and their nominators, thank you very much to all of you. I said this last year and I'll say it again. I'm always so inspired by this ceremony and just the incredible public servants on both sides of the lectern, and to all of the folks who are here online with us, and very much looking forward to being back in a room with everybody next year, so we can all celebrate this incredible community together. So before we conclude, well, our official ceremony is concluded. I do just want to ask again all the nominees to stay on so we can do a quick screenshot for our records and posterity, and just virtual, or if everyone wants to unmute and just give us a round of applause for all of our nominees. I don't know if that's possible, but congratulations. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. You're free to go about your weekend. Enjoy the cabin traffic, and we'll see you again soon.